Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to crochet this bandana style halter neck tie top. What you'll need for this project is 100 grams of, I'm using the Kobu yarn by Lion brand. It is a weight 3 yarn and it is a cotton and rayon blend. I ended up using just under 100 grams of this yarn, so this one was perfect for this project. And then you'll also need a 5mm hook. In terms of yarn and hook size, it's really up to you what you want to use. The pattern can be adjusted to just about any yarn size and hook. This is just what I decided to go with because this yarn is the perfect breathable yarn for the weather as it starts to get warmer outside. And if you're wondering, I'm using the color Steel Blue. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is make one long chain. You want this chain to be the length of where you want the top to sit around your neck, and then just where it will wrap around your back, like just where it reaches around your back before it turns into the actual string tie part of the top. So for me and this type of yarn, I am going to do 50. So I'm going to do 50, but just to show you guys an example, this was the other color yarn that I had made this top out of. And basically, I recommend that you do this for whatever yarn you're using as well. But based on what I had kind of measured from my neck to right around my back, I decided to chain 50, which means that I needed to figure out how many rows of double crochet I was going to need in order to make it a perfect square. So what I did is instead I made a chain of 10 just to make a swatch, and then I saw how many rows it would take to make it just about a perfect square, and for me that was 5. To figure out how many rows I will need for 50 chains, I just have to multiply it by 5, so 10 rows by 5 equals 50. So then these 5 rows times 5 means I'm going to need 25 rows of double crochet to make it a relatively perfect square. So I'm going to do 50, so I'm going to start doing that. Okay, so now that we have chain 50, what I'm going to do is start working the double crochets into the back loop of the chain. This is just a personal preference. I think that it makes it easier to do the edge that I'm going to do around the whole top later. It just makes it a lot clearer to see the stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add one more chain just to make it a little easier, and then I'm going to turn the whole chain over, and I'm going to go into this back loop. I don't know if you guys can see well, and what I'm going to do is just insert my hook underneath that loop. And instead of chaining 2, I prefer to do 1 single crochet, and this will apply to the start of every row. And then once doing that single crochet, you're going to insert the hook back into this loop right here, that like bottom loop part of the single crochet. And I believe this is called doing a stacked double crochet. You're going to insert it, yarn over, and pull through, and then pull through again, and that kind of makes it look like a normal double crochet instead of just chaining 2. This is also just a personal preference, and if it's easier for you to just chain 2 at the start of every row, then I would say it's totally fine to do that instead. So now we're just going to double crochet across the whole row like normal. Okay, so here is the first row completed, and this really is such a simple top because from here on out we are just going to be doing rows of double crochet all the way until the last 4 rows. And this is why I wanted you guys to make the little swatch that I mentioned before, because if you know how many rows you're going to need to make the perfect square ahead of time, then you will be able to know how many rows you need to complete before you start decreasing. This is the 2 ties at the top that go around your neck, and instead of it being a point at the top of like your neck. It is instead flatter, so it's a bit more comfortable. And we achieved this look by doing decreases on the last 4 rows. So since I am going to do 25 rows total, I know that I need to do 21 rows of double crochet all the way to each end, and then I will start decreasing. So I'm basically just going to breeze through these next 20 rows that I have to do, and then I will come back to you guys and go into more detail on how you're going to be doing the decreases. Okay, I have now reached the end of the 21st row, which means now I can start doing my decreases. So for the last 4 rows, what you're gonna do is, since I've been doing the stacked double crochet, what I'm going to do instead of doing a normal one is I'm going to turn my work and then insert my hook just like before to do a single crochet and pull up 1 loop, and then instead of completing the single crochet, I'm actually going to insert my hook into this next loop. So then I have 3 loops on my hook, and then I'm going to pull it all through to make 1, I guess technically single crochet, and then I'm going to do the same thing what I did before for the stacked double crochet, is then insert my hook into the leftmost loop, yarn over and pull through, and then finish it off by pulling it through those 2 loops. And so what we're going to be doing is, after that first decrease, we're just going to complete the row again with double crochets like normal. And then once we finish this row, I'll tell you what is going to happen next. Okay, now we are at the end of the 22nd row. So you can see we did our decrease over here on this end. So that's the only side we're going to be doing the decrease on. So that means that when we turn our work right now, we're just going to go across the row like normal with the normal stacked double crochet and crochet all the way down with just regular double crochets until the last 2 stitches. And once we get there, I'll explain what you're going to do. So now that we are down to the last 2, we're going to make a decrease similar to the way we did before, just by inserting the hook into the first loop, yarn over and pulling through, and then inserting the hook into the second loop and pulling through. So then we have 3 loops on our hook, and then this one is a little different. I'm just going to act as if these are the 3 normal loops that are on your hook when you perform a regular double crochet. So we're not doing a stacked double crochet, we're just pulling through, pulling up these 2 loops, so then we could pull through the first 2 and then yarn over and pull through the second 2 like a regular double crochet. And really, honestly, whatever way you choose to do the decrease, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is that you're taking 2 stitches and combining them into 1 somehow. And as long as you're doing that, it will create the flat neck part that we're trying to achieve. So okay, all we're going to do is turn our work now and repeat the same steps we just made for the last 2 rows. Okay, as you can see, we have our square with our flattened corner here. And so now to start the edge, if you couldn't tell by just looking at the top in the video, the edge is a picket stitch or picot stitch. I've never had to say that out loud, so I'm not even really sure if I'm saying it correctly. But in order to do this stitch, it basically involves doing just single crochets and then chaining 3 and then doing a slip stitch. So to do this stitch, you usually start by doing a single crochet and then chaining 3, but I am just going to treat this last double crochet like a single crochet and just start by chaining 3. So just for reference, we are starting with the top corner of the neckline part of the top. So I'm going to chain 3, 2, 3, and then what you do is you're going to insert your hook into this front V part of what's usually the single crochet, but in this case this was the double crochet we finished. We're going to insert it through that front loop and then this other front loop, which it'll be more clear when we're doing single crochets because there will be only really 2 loops to look at. But then we're going to yarn over and pull through those 2 loops and then basically perform a slip stitch by pulling it all the way through that last loop on the hook. And now we have that first little bump detail, I guess. I don't really know how to describe it. The pattern you're going to follow basically is to perform each strap is you're going to do one of these picket stitches, and then once you do one of them at every corner, you're then going to chain however many you want. It's really a preference thing. Now this is going to be tedious, but I am going to chain 100 for my next straps. So I'm just going to get started on that. Okay, so now I have 100, and the reason why I said that this is tedious is because I'm now going to slip stitch all the way back down the chain. And I'm not gonna lie, this does take a bit of time, but I definitely feel like it's worth it because it just makes the straps way more comfortable because they're not too thin, and I just feel like it makes them look a little more professional. So I think it's definitely worth your time. Like I mentioned before, I prefer to work into the back loop of the chain, so that's just what I'm gonna do, is slip stitch all the way back down this chain. And I will check in with you guys once we get down this chain. Okay, we are now down to the last slip stitch. And well, actually, one thing I wanted to mention, so that was the last chain that we just slip stitched into, but I would recommend inserting your hook into these two I don't know, these 2 strands right here, and doing one last slip stitch, because that I've noticed otherwise it kind of creates a weird gap in the strap. So I would recommend doing a slip stitch into those 2 strands. And then once you do that, now we are going to do what we did before. Usually there would be a single crochet, but since we're doing the strap part, we are just going to chain 3 and then insert our hook into, I don't want to block your guys' vision, into the front strand, as well as this other front strand. I know that probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'll explain better once we're no longer doing a strap part because it's a little easier to see. And then we pull it all the way through because it's a slip stitch. And now what that leaves us with is a strap with the 2 little picket stitches on the side. And so now we are going to be doing the picket stitch down the edge of the whole entire top, and every time we get to a corner, you're going to do 1 picket stitch, do the chain of however many you prefer. For the top straps, I'm doing 100, and then for the side straps, I'm going to do 150. So there really is no like specific, there's no right or wrong place to insert your hook from here on out, really, when you don't have the clear stitches. So I'm just going to insert right here and do 1 single crochet, and then I'm going to do another single crochet right here. I try to space it out so that I insert 2 single crochets in every row of double crochet. So now that we have 2, we're going to continue the picket stitch. So we're going to chain 3, 2, 3, and then we're going to insert our hook into the top or the front V of the single crochet, and then in this leftmost strand of the yarn. And then we are going to pull through everything, so then we have another bump. And so I'm going to do that again, insert my hook into this gap and do a single crochet, and then I see this other gap right here. I'm going to do another single crochet. So that's the pattern that you're going to do along the whole edge, is 2 single crochets and then chain 3 and then slip stitch that chain into that single crochet that you made. So we just chained 2, or we just did 2 single crochets, so we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to insert our hook into this loop and then into this leftmost loop, and we're going to pull through all of this. Oops, I lost a little part of the strand, and then there we go. And now I'm going to do this one more time, but you can see we're approaching this corner here. So I'm going to insert my hook here and do a single crochet, and then I'm gonna insert my hook right here, do another single crochet, and now we are at the edge of the neckline. So we're gonna chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then insert into these 2 front loops, and then pull through everything. And from here, we are now going to start doing our chain of 100 since we are at another corner. So now that we have a chain of 100 again, we are going to slip stitch all the way back down, just like we did before. Okay, so we are on the last couple slip stitches. And remember, so this right here, the one I'm doing, is the last one if we're talking about the amount that I chained, but make sure you do one last slip stitch by grabbing these front 2 loops. That way there's no weird gap in your strap. So slip stitch, and there we go. Now we have another strap completed, and to finish off the corner, you're going to chain 3 again and insert your hook into these front 2 loops, just like where we slip stitched just a second ago, and then pull it through all the way. And now it's a little hard to see with my hook in the way, but now we have another strap with 2 picket stitches. So the pattern is basically just 2 single crochets, chain 3, and then slip stitch in the front 2 loops of the single crochet. And you're just going to be repeating this all the way down. So here's the top edge of the top, and you're going to repeat the 2 single crochets, chain 3, slip stitch all the way down to this corner, and that's where we will make our first side strap. and I'm going to do 150 this time instead of 100. So basically, I'm just going to continue in this picket stitch all the way down to this bottom corner of the top, which this one there will be no strap added here, so we will just continue the edge like normal. Okay, so I'm about to complete the last strap, but I just wanted to show you guys what the edge is looking like. And how by now we have the picket stitch going around the whole edge except for this last side right here. So I'm just going to do the last strap and then complete the last edge because it's really just repeating what we've been doing this whole time, and then that will pretty much be it. Okay, you guys, so I'm just going to do my last picket stitch. I really hope I've been saying that right this whole time. And now I'm just going to do one single, not single crochet, just slip stitch into this hole here. Just do a slip stitch, and then I'm going to just yarn over and pull through one more time, so then it makes a little knot, and pull it tight. And now I just need to cut the yarn, so let me go grab some scissors. Okay, so I'm just going to cut the yarn with enough to weave in the ends easily. I'm just going to pull this through all the way. And now just weave in this end really any way that you want. I have no particular way of weaving an end, so just do it whatever way you prefer. By the way, in case you guys were wondering how much yarn you need, this is how much I still had left out of that 100 grams, so my best guess is that it was probably around 75 grams that I used, but I really don't know because I have no good sense of telling how much yarn is enough yarn. So just for reference, in case you guys are unsure of how much you're likely going to need, yeah, this is how much I had left. But yeah, aside from weaving in this final end, the top is done now. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that it made sense. It's still only the second one I've ever made, so let me know if you have any suggestions on how I can make them better. But I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!